Welcome back! Today, we're diving into one of the most incredible biological clocks inside the human body. We're talking about the creation of the female gamete and the super intricate monthly cycle that runs the whole show.
Okay, so right off the bat, you need to get this one crucial difference. For males, sperm production is kind of like a factory that's always running, starting at puberty. But the female process, called oogenesis, well, that's a completely different story. It's a journey that actually begins before a person is even born and then plays out over decades.
And this table just lays it all out perfectly. You can see oogenesis starts in the embryo with a set, finite number of potential eggs. Spermatogenesis, that kicks off at puberty and just keeps going. This means you get just one large, nutrient-packed ovum per cycle, compared to literally millions of sperm every single day. The whole female system is built on a cycle, not on constant production. So, here's the plan for today. First, we're going to look at how that lifetime supply of eggs gets made. Then, we'll follow what I like to call the great follicle race that happens every month. After that, we'll meet the hormones that act like master conductors for this whole orchestra. And finally, we'll put it all together on a timeline and look at the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle.
All right, let's start at the very, very beginning. And I'm not kidding. The groundwork for every potential new life is actually laid decades before it could ever even be conceived. It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
So the official term for this whole process is oogenesis. And the biggest thing to remember here is when it starts, during embryonic development. That means a female fetus is already preparing the very gametes that she'll carry for her entire reproductive life. And the starting number is just staggering. We're talking about a couple of million of these gamete mother cells, or oogonia, forming in each fetal ovary. And listen to this, that's it. No more are ever added after birth. This is the one and only lifetime supply.
But from those millions, a huge number actually degenerate over time. So by the time puberty hits, there are only about 60,000 to 80,000 of what are called primary follicles left in each ovary. That's a massive drop, which tells you a selection process has already been going on for years.
And from those tens of thousands of contenders, the final number released each month is just 1. Typically, only a single ovum makes it to the finish line. It just goes to show you how incredibly selective and, frankly, precious this whole process really is.
So, how in the world do we get from thousands of options down to just one winner? Well, that brings us to our next section, the Great Follicle Race. Every month, a whole group of follicles gets the signal to start growing, but only one is actually going to make it all the way.
So this winning follicle goes through this amazing transformation. It starts out as a simple primary follicle, but then it adds more and more protective layers, becoming a secondary follicle. The real game changer is when this fluid-filled cavity, the antrum, shows up. That turns it into a tertiary follicle, and from there, it matures into the final form, the Graafian follicle, all ready for ovulation.
Now, inside that follicle, something really clever is happening. The primary oocyte finishes its first big division, meiosis. But it's not an equal split, not at all. One cell, the secondary oocyte, gets to hog almost all the cytoplasm and nutrients. The other one, this tiny thing called a polar body, basically gets discarded. It's a brilliant biological strategy to make sure that the future egg has every resource it needs to survive if it gets fertilized.
Okay, so none of this is happening by accident. This entire monthly dance is tightly controlled by a group of chemical messengers. Let's meet the master conductors of this biological symphony, the hormones. We've got 4 main players here. First up is FSH, follicle-stimulating hormone. Its name pretty much says it all. It gets the follicle race started. As those follicles grow, they release estrogens, which start rebuilding the uterine lining. Then you have LH, or luteinizing hormone, which is the big trigger for ovulation. And finally, progesterone, which is absolutely essential for maintaining that uterine lining, getting it ready for a potential pregnancy.
And the most dramatic moment in this whole hormonal story is something called the LH surge. This is the absolute peak, the pivotal moment. It's this rapid, massive spike in LH that acts as the final signal, telling that mature Graafian follicle to rupture and release the egg. That is ovulation.
But wait, the follicle's job isn't done yet. After it releases the egg, the structure that's left behind transforms into something new, called the corpus luteum. You can think of it as a temporary little hormone factory.
Its main job is to pump out progesterone, the hormone that makes the uterus a safe and welcoming home for a fertilized egg.
Okay, so let's put all of these moving parts together. We've got follicles growing, we've got hormones surging. Now let's map all of this onto a clear 28-day timeline to see how it all fits.
So the cycle kicks off on day 1 with the menstrual phase. That's when the uterine lining breaks down. But even as that's happening, the body is already getting ready for the next round in the follicular phase. New follicles are growing and the lining starts to regenerate. That whole first half is building up to that one big moment around day 14, the ovulatory phase, triggered by that LH surge. And the whole second half of the cycle, the luteal phase, is basically the waiting game, where the corpus luteum keeps progesterone high, maintaining that ready environment.
And this entire reproductive story is framed by two major milestones. You have menarche, which is the very first menstruation at puberty. That signals the start of the reproductive years. And then, decades later, you have menopause, which usually happens around age 50, and that's when the cycles stop for good.
When you boil it all down, that's what this is all about. This entire complex, intricate process is a monthly preparation for a potential pregnancy. And if fertilization doesn't happen, the system just elegantly resets itself. The corpus luteum fades away, hormone levels drop, the lining is shed, and a brand new cycle begins.
It's a truly remarkable blueprint for creating life, one that resets itself month after month with incredible precision. But that, of course, raises the ultimate question. What happens when the blueprint is finally met? When all the conditions are perfect, and that waiting egg is finally met by a sperm? Well, that's a story for next time.